Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Gina and today I just wanted to talk about the books that I read for Polarthon. So the initial plan was to only read 3 books for all 5 prompts. Things went haywire. But Polarthon, if you don't know, is a week-long readathon put on by Jade from Jadeyraereads that is all about polar fantasy. Polar fantasy has never really been something that I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go read. To be honest, before I heard about Polarthon, I don't even think I knew polar fantasy was a subgenre. Like, I didn't even know it was a thing. But if you're new here, I am obsessed with readathons. It might be starting to be a problem, but that's okay. And I really like readathons that have a competitive nature. So when you have teams and you earn points for the pages you read, not like you really get anything when you win, but I don't know, makes me happy. So, Polarthon this year, I don't know if they've always done teams like that, but they did this year. So there were 4 teams, and each team had 4 different prompts, plus all teams had to read a polar fantasy. You could double up to bring your books down to 3, I think was the minimum. You couldn't triple up. So I was going to read the 3 minimum because guess what? There's not a lot of Black authors out there that write polar fantasy. At least that I could find, like just looking for specifically polar fantasy. And I kind of went towards middle grades for some of them because those are easier. But, excuse me. And this is Black History Month. And though I read Black all year long, I was trying to read Anyway, this intro is getting a little too long here, so I apologize. But I'm competitive, and I found out that after you finish the prompts, if you wanted to read more, you could, as long as they were based on the prompts, so I couldn't just read random stuff. I was on Team Arctic Fox, and our team leader was Wild Sasha. And so I read my first 3, and then it just snowballed from there. So I'm going to tell you the 8 books that I read for Polarthon. I'm insane, but whatever. Here we go. And I was going to return the books to the library today, and then I was like, you know what? They're not due, so I can actually do a video where I'm holding the physical books. And so now they're all in this bag, and I didn't think to take them out before this video. So, aha, found it. So the first book I read for Polarthon is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh. This book, we are following 8 survivors of the Kingdom of Winter trying to find their magic. It's an amulet. Like each kingdom has a, what do they call it? A conduit. An item that the ruler, the king or queen, could uses to use the magic. Like the magic flows through that item to the ruler of the kingdom. The ruler is the only person that can use magic. But it's weird. The magic pushes out to all of their citizens of that kingdom. So it was a really interesting way to do magic. So it's not like you were forcing your citizens to do something, but you could like give them strength. You could make them more creative. You could kind of give them nudges, I guess, for like wartime and stuff, like enemies that way, whatever. It just made everything helpful and whatnot. We've gone past the point. And basically we're mainly following it, one of the survivors, Mira. Mira was an orphan when the kingdom was toppled, and her friend, who's also a child, a baby, when the kingdom was toppled, but he just happens to be the king, because the queen and the king or the queen was killed. I don't think there was I don't think they mentioned a king. Who was also her best friend, and it's a lot of magic and politics, and I actually gave it a 4-star. I really liked it. It was, and this is like Xena's chakram here. That's Mira's weapon of choice. So I love that badass girl vibe. She's like, I don't need nobody. Oh, it itches my hair. So I will say I found it a little weird. You have 8 survivors. 8. That's it. That's not a lot of survivors that you're following in this little band of Save the Kingdom. We only got to know 3 of them. Mira, Mather, the king, and then their like leader that raised them and is kind of like, he was like the head guard or something, commander, who was entrusted to take these kids, and try to restore the kingdom. They called him Sir. I don't remember what his real name was. William, maybe? So there's like 5 other people in this close band of survivors that we barely get to know. Like they do, they talk about them and they're mentioned. We get little tidbits here and there, but I could not tell you any of their names. One of them was Sir's wife, and that's all I got for you. And I know, like, they all go out and do missions and are part of the, trying to find the magic, except for one person who is not a fighter at all, which might be his wife. I don't remember. You have such a small group of people. Like, I kind of wish it would have fleshed out more of that group of 8. But Mira's a 16-year-old, and I don't think she just doesn't care. She's what else? Okay. How do I... So, what I did think was cool, I don't know. It's kind of simplistic, but I liked the way they did the people. At least for the couple of kingdoms that we visit in the book. If the kingdom was a seasonal kingdom, there are 8 kingdoms. 4 are rhythm kingdoms, and they cycle through the seasons. And then you have 4 kingdoms that are the seasons. So you have a winter kingdom, a spring, autumn. What am I missing? Summer. They all look like their season. Like the Winterians are very pale, white-haired winters. I think they went to the autumn court, I believe, or the autumn kingdom at one point, and she mentions their hair was the color of autumn leaves, so like rusts and reds and those colors, fall colors, and their skin was like a darker color, gold. It was very like seasonal. But I thought that was kind of cool. It did keep me intrigued during most of it. There was a few parts where I was like, oh, what? If you... Is this a spoiler? I don't know. Love triangles. There is a love triangle in this book, and it wasn't the worst. It was, I'll say that. It's not the worst. You kind of like both of the people. I like Theron a little more than I like Mather. But it just sucks. Like, somebody living the poly, like, if you didn't know, now you know. I'm poly. I have a polyamory. Look it up if you don't know. Do you hear that? I wonder if my kid's tablet is still on or something. That was a really weird noise, like a cat meow or something. We don't have a cat. And I just, every time there's a love triangle, I'm like, why can't you all just be together? I mean, you can. You've got rulers of kingdoms. But you could just all love each other. Just want you all to love each other. But Snow Like Ashes, Sarah Rosh. Like I said, I gave it a 4-star. I will definitely be continuing on with this series. It's a trilogy. I believe there's 2 more books. So yeah. The second book that I read was Hunted. Ooh, look at that shininess. Ooh, shiny. Hunted by Megan Spooner. I get distracted way too easily every time I look at this cover. I don't know why, but it's so silvery and pretty. This one I also gave 4 stars to. It wasn't as high of a 4-star because I used Book Roast's call pile to rate my books, to help me kind of break them up by categories and think about each thing, think about the characters and the writing and the plot and how I felt about each of these specific pieces. If you haven't checked it out, I'll link it below. But Hunted is a Beauty and the Beast retelling with some Russian folklore fit in. I think it takes place in Russia. The main character, her nickname is Beauty, but her name is Yeva. And in a lot of ways, your standard Beauty and the Beast story. Father first encounters the Beast, and then Beauty comes along. Beauty, in both cases, Beauty's held captive. In this case, Beauty wants to kill the Beast. Like, it's definitely hate to love kind of situation. She wants to murder him. And it's it honestly did surprise me. There was a few times where like took turns. I was like, oh, okay. It's very interesting because Beast needs Beauty to hunt something for him to help free him. And she needs to enter Beast's world, which is more of a magical, mystical part of the forest, where there are mythological creatures, almost like rusalkas or nymph, kind of, you know, the firebird. It's people that, where everything wants to kill you, basically, in a lot of ways. And the ending, I both loved and hated it. But I can't say much more about that because it would be very spoilery, so I won't. I am glad I read it. There was zero, zero insta love. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Um, I, insta love should only happen in shifter books where you're like fated in the pheromones and like mating and whatnot. Um, I keep looking at my notes. uh, if you are looking for a super action-packed book, this ain't it. It ain't it. But I was okay with that. I was okay with that. The story kept me intrigued. I kept me in it, and the whole captor Stockholm syndrome thing, I feel like it's a normal Beauty and the Beast, and it was done well. It didn't irritate me at all. Yeah, Hunted. Okay, third book. Let's move this along. I'm just gonna talk about the third and not the fourth book, like the fifth book. I think I snuck a book in between these two, but I read the first two in a series, so I'm just gonna talk about them together. Both of these I read on Scribd. Yeah, Scribd. So I will put a picture on the screen. And this is the first two books in the Polar Bear Explorers Club. So the Polar Bear Explorers Club and Explorers on Witch Mountain. I'm not a super big middle grade reader. My kids aren't exactly there yet. My daughter really will only read graphic novels, and the other one just wants to be read too. But I feel like I should start reading. I am going to start reading more middle grade. Even as just like a nice refresher in between like super big fantasies or something like that, because these books were so cute, so freaking adorable. I loved them. They're by Alex Bell. I feel like there's a little bit of a delay. Hopefully not. Okay, so I think I said these books are by Alex Bell, right before I thought something was weird with my audio. I laughed so much in these books, and how long was that like that? Okay, I mean, if you like middle grade, I definitely suggest giving this series a whirl. I will definitely continue on with it. I wanted to actually binge read and read the third one right away, but it was not available on audio or ebook anywhere that I could find at the time. They don't come out right and say that Beanie is autistic, but that's the feel that I got. But I thought it was really, really great done and not a thing at all, which was nice. It was middle grade. It had a lot of little moralistic, like, I can't even think of the word that I want to use to describe this. I don't know. Honestly, don't know why it didn't come out to a 5-star. I think it's just hard for me to rate a middle grade a 5-star. But that might just be on me. But they were great. Fantastic. This is getting long again. Okay. The next book I'll mention, I read the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. And so book 2 in the Winter Night trilogy is The Girl in the Tower. Oh, this one's silver. Okay. Sorry, distraction. And this is oh my god. How to describe this book. So it's a Russian. It's got a lot of Russian-based. It's almost like a retelling, maybe, or a mashup of Russian fairy tales and stuff like that. But this series follows Vasilisa, and her, I guess you could call them adventures, just her life. So the first book, Vasilisa is in her village, I guess you would call it. She's the boyar's daughter. He's like the head of their community. It's like a lord of the land, just below the Prince of Moscow. And she's wants to live life her way, basically. Like normally, a girl, her only options are to get married and have babies and, you know, that whole schmuck, or go to a convent. Yep, that's it. That's all you got. And she wants to have none of that. And she can also see all the little house spirits and fairy type creatures, and she has a connection to them, which goes awry when priest comes to the village and is sowing fear. And there's also the, what do you call him, a winter king, winter prince? Somebody described him quite perfectly the other day. See, it's in here, all that Morosko, it says Frost, the winter demon from the stories. I don't think him as a demon. He was a fantastic character in both of these books. But anyway, the second book in the series continues following Vasha after on adventures outside of her village. And yeah, this also got 4 stars from me. It is definitely slower in the beginning, and that probably would have been, and I don't know what it is. I feel like, just like in the first book, there are some scenes where it's more about her siblings, and snippets, you know, of them and whatnot, and I don't know why, but I don't care. I don't care about her brother or her sister. And like, I get why they show them, or why she shows them, like, this is like the normality. These are what sisters should be doing, like, or whatnot. But I'm just like, ugh. I don't care. So the beginning, not as slow as the beginning of the first book. I didn't know if I was going to make it. And then I got to a point in the first book where I was like, oh, snap! It's getting good! This one, less time to get to that point. Thank goodness. And Vasia's, her development in the book, even definitely from the first book to this one, but she's grown up. But even just throughout this book, like, there's so many parts in the beginning of the books, early, middle, where I'm just like, Vasia, what the why? Like, ugh. You just wanted to, like, yank her by the hair and smack her around a little bit. I just got violent. But so you definitely see her growth. She learns lessons. But I will say, if you read the first book, this is not a spoiler. If you hate the priest, he comes back. I was really hoping to not see that priest ever again, but he just had to show his ugly little face in this book. Still don't like him. He's still horrible, horrible little creature. Oh, by the way, this is my little, oh, so pretty. This is Melanin Eclectic's reading journal that I purchased because I didn't win it. But yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I'll leave links for Melanin Eclectic. Oh, look at that. It's so sparkly. It's getting late, guys. I'm getting loopy. So the next book that I read was Shadow Scale. I know why libraries do this, but it really does not help when I'm filming. This plasticky crap to protect the cover. I get it. But it's not helping. Shadow Scale. Shadow Scale. By Rachel Hartman. This is book 2, the sequel to Seraphina. Seraphina is a dragon-human hybrid. Mom is a dragon, dad is a human. And in the first book, I definitely want to say heavy on, I don't know, character development, I guess. I'm trying to remember if there was a plot to the first book. I know there was. I feel like it was really more about trying to prevent this human dragon war from happening, because there has been a peace treaty, there's been peace between the humans and the dragons for 40 years, and there is a couple of factions. There's a faction of humans that want to kill all the dragons, and a faction of dragons that want to go back to hunting in that land. And so she ends up uniquely tasked to be a go-between. And so this is, in the second book, we follow Seraphina as she goes on a journey to find the other half-human dragons that we find out about in the first book, that we know that are not necessarily living in her head, but she has a connection to them. And so to prevent visions that used to overtake her when she was little, she's learned to, she keeps a mind garden, and keeps them gated, and tends to the garden so that the visions don't just randomly come. I explained that horribly, but it is a really good book. Seraphina was fantastic. Shadow Scale is fantastic. I did give it 4 stars if I didn't mention that. I will say, if you read the reviews, I know a lot of people were angry about the relationship, but I guess they see it as cheating or whatnot. There's no cheating. I feel like you can't. There is none. And I don't feel like you can always necessarily look at relationships between that kings and queens have to be in, especially if you have to marry, and they're most likely not marrying because of love. So I don't know. If you read the reviews, do not let that stop you from reading these books. Don't let it stop you. The world building and just the character building. How I was mad in the other book that we have 8 characters and you only get to know 3 of them. Well, at least in that little survivor group. So you get to know a couple of the other characters that she meets along the way. And what was that? Snow Like Ashes. But there's, oh my gosh, 9 or 10 half dragons, and they each have their own personalities, their backstories, their little idiosyncrasies. Like, the characters are so well done in these books. They're fantastic. You visit like 3 or 4 different kingdoms. They're all different and unique and have a plethora of people and differences, and it's just this book is really good. Really good. This was a really high 4-star. Actually. Really, really high. What else did I want to say about this one? There were twists that I did not see coming. I can't say if you will also not see them coming, but I didn't. So that was cool. There are apparently a few other books set in this world, even though we don't. The story, Seraphina's story, Seraphina and who are the other? Griselda and is the queen and Lucian, Prince Lucian. Their story kind of ends, I guess. We don't see them more much, but this world is so. I will be reading other books. Anything else set in this world by Rachel Hartman, I will be reading. The Wicked Deep. Oh, I also read this one on Scribd. The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. Yes. As you see, almost all of my books I read because I didn't even tell you what prompts I read them for. I'm sorry. I apologize if you wanted to know that information and I did not share it with you. I'm sorry. Well, I'm sure you could see all the ones that had silver. Almost all of them had silver on the cover, so they all could have been used for that prompt. And they kind of were. But anyway, this was down to the wire. I had one more day to read a book and to try to earn some more points so our team could win. Spoiler, we didn't. Anyway, and this one was on Scribd, and I couldn't find the third in the Polar Bears series, the Polar Bear Club. So I started this week reading this one because I feel like I'd heard some maybe good things about it. Let's just say I'd heard of it. I'd heard of this book. I have the worst memory in the world, and I don't remember if what I heard about the book was good or not so good. I did end up giving The Wicked Deep a 4-star, but it was a low 4-star. It may change to a 3-star in the future as I go. We'll see. It really depends on how much I remember of this book. But the main thing that brought it down, this book was a whole lot of insta-love. Insta-love. Like, the book takes place over a 3-week period of time. That's it. 3 weeks. How? I don't even understand that. I don't even understand it. Insta-love. And so, I didn't even tell you what The Wicked Deep is about. Let's see if I remember. The Wicked Deep is about the town of Sparrow, who celebrate the swan season, because 200 years ago, the Swan sisters, there's 3 sisters, moved to town, and these sisters were gorgeous and flirtatious and just, I can't even think of the word I want to use. At least, well, 2 of the 3 did a lot of flirting, a lot of getting with married men, and not giving a F, you know, just loving life. Loving life. You do you. I don't even care. I'm not mad about it. That's on your man. Just kidding. But, and so, you know, townspeople, after a while, cried a witch and chucked them all in the water, killed them dead. And now, every year, on June 1st, maybe, the Swan Sisters come back to take over bodies of 3 young women in town and proceed to murder 3 or more men. Well, boys. Usually boys. And here's the thing. Oh, and then Wicked Deep we follow Penny, who meets an outsider, comes to town about the same time, who says he knows nothing about Swan season, or he doesn't know anything about Swan season, and she hires him to help her on the island, because her dad has been gone for a few years, and they need help, and there's a whole lot of, you know, the people in the town turn on each other, basically trying to find out which girls have been taken over to try, you know, before all the boys are, you know, before they each kill a boy, blah blah. So 200 years, every year, like clockwork, June 1st rolls around, you hear an eerie singing off the water that compels girls to walk into the water. You know, they all try to resist. I'm back. That was weird. Learned a new thing. Stopped the whole video. That's okay. So they take over 3 bodies, and then these women, in secret, without even knowing, like, they themselves don't know it, like, their consciousness has been, you know, taken over and pushed down, kill at least 3 boys every year for 200 years, like clockwork. How has this become a thing to celebrate? How has this become a tourist attraction where people from all over come for the 3 weeks to try to survive the season? Like, literally, these kids are on the beach throwing a party. I guess kids are dumb, but, like, as parents, I'm sorry. If I grow up in a town where women get taken over by ghosts and kill boys every summer, even if I don't want to move, I'm taking a 3-week vacation every year. Like, how is this town how do we not shut down for 3 weeks every year? Just close it up, send all the kids to summer camp. Like, seriously? Send your kids away. Like, especially if you have a boy, like, you have a son, and you haven't sent that kid to live with Aunt Martha on the other side of the country for 3 weeks? Haven't hopped in your car, gone camping 2 counties over? Lots of things you can do in a small town. Shut down. I don't know why. I struggled with that. I did predict the twist, though then I proceeded to second guess myself for the rest of the book. Like, no. Who would have not? No. I liked the fact that they talked about they did give us glimpses into the lives of the 3 sisters. So there were some flashback scenes of the 3 sisters. Somebody, I don't remember the oldest names. Marguerite? No, Marge? No. there's the first girl, there's Aurora, and then there's Hazel. Um, and yes, the girls are super sex positive, loving life, not giving an F. But they were also kind of bitchy. Uh, so I did not care about them. Like, it sucks that you drowned, but you weren't going far in life. I don't know. Their relationship, though, was pretty decent back then. Like, they all owned a shop. The youngest sister, Hazel, though, she was nice. She was nice. I felt bad for her. I felt bad for all of them. But I don't know what else to say about that book. I've got nothing else to say about that book. Let's get to the best book. The best book I read, which wasn't even, like, some of those weren't polar fantasies. Some of them fit, mainly just fit like the silver on the cover prompt. But this book initially was not for Polarthon. I just got it. It came from the library. It's one of my most anticipated reads. And I started it anyway. And then I found a loophole. Not really a loophole. But I read Slay by Brittany Morris. Though I will say, if this is supposed to be my God, I'm so bad with names. Kira. I mean, I guess. She's just a very young looking 17, in my opinion. I thought she was like, this cover makes you think like she was like 12 or 13. I don't know why. She's got a young face, baby face. But I don't know if you can see there. These little, like over here, all these little light areas in this like little staticky background, as well as like around her glasses and other stuff, is silver. So yeah, found a loophole, and I use this for Polarthon. But if you haven't heard of Slay, Slay is a book, 17-year-old Kira. I mean, I guess she technically started this when she's been doing this game for 3 years, so she was 14 when she first created the game. So Kira is the creator of the game Slay, which is a virtual reality, fully fleshed out world where you go on quests, collect ingredients for different potions, and to earn money to buy these cards. And using the cards, you then duel other players. And all the cards are these like fantastic Black culture references, and not just like American references, just apparently they're all around the world Black references. And she started this game. It wasn't even necessarily to start a game. She was playing other games, and it was just a toxic culture, racism, and getting called the N-word and whatnot. And the only characters where you could play that had darker skin tones were trolls, and whatnot. So she wanted a game where she could be herself. She could be anybody, any Black person of any shade could be who they were, whether they were light-skinned, dark-skinned. And so she had just created her character, Emerald, and then wanted to share it with the world, and so invited other people to come make characters and whatnot. And it just, I think it just ballooned from there. Her and her helper, her another Ahmad, Cicada. I don't remember Cicada's real name. Oops. But that's just the backstory. The story starts when she's 17, and not long into it, a one of the players in Slay is murdered in real life by another Slay player, and the game gets all up in the news. They're calling it Slay murders, and nobody knows her identity, and there's talk about suing the creator, and that this world is racist because it doesn't, it's exclusionary, because you have to have a password to get in, and it's for black people, so most black people aren't going to give the password to their white friends. It probably does happen on occasion, but I'm sure most of the time their friends are like not a-holes, until this happens, and then she has a troll infiltrates the game, and so then she has to figure out how to save this world that she's built. And I know some people have some criticisms with the unrealistic maybe of how did this 14-year-old, 14 to 17-year-old girl build this fully fleshed out game like this without anybody knowing, and only having one other person as help, like her parents don't even know. And I get that, but it did not take away the enjoyment from the game for me. Like, they mentioned like her doing things to get money, and it sounded like the servers, her partner Cicada, got access to them like through her school, like through her college, and it doesn't sound like they have to pay much for them because she's using it for a project, a long-term like project. So I feel like they addressed some of those issues on how like she was able to do some of the affording of it. But oh my god, like, I listened to this on audio, but it wouldn't have mattered either way. It's fantastic. The audiobook is great, the book is great. I gave this 5 stars. I would love to see this game, like, even just in a movie. Like, the way she writes this game, it's so beautiful. And these cards, everything in this book is just gorgeous. Her descriptions, it's celebrating the blackness. Oh, so good. You also got some peeks into some of the bigger players' lives. So you kind of got to see these big slayers, who they were in real life. I think we got introduced to like 3 of them, maybe. But it's really interesting who they were. And so her and her sister go to a like almost all white school now. There's only like 2 other black kids, and white kids, even her friends are just insular, they clearly don't. They keep asking Kira like all the black questions, like, would it be okay if I got dreads? No. And then her boyfriend is the only black boy at the school. Like, they both transferred to the school from another school, and her friend Wyatt irritated the crap out of me. Like, it was like her friend's brother. But her boyfriend Malcolm? Like, their relationship was not good. Not good. And that was the even worse than like the logic behind building this game was her relationship with Mel. Like, it was a low 5. I'll say in my rating for the call pile, it got a 9, which is the lowest you can get to be a 5-star. And because my enjoyment of it was, but those two things, he was so pro-black and anti-white, it was just, and like, to be a successful black person, you have to follow a certain path. And no, there's so many different ways to be successful as any person. So yeah, just Malcolm. So, okay, that was it. Those are all the books that I read for Polarthon. Did you participate in Polarthon? Let me know down below. Blah, 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 blah. Words, not my strong suit, apparently. Let me know what you've thought of any of those books. If you've read them before, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you survived this long, thank you. And I appreciate it. Feel free to like, subscribe if you want to see more. I think that's it. I always get to the end of these and I never know what to say. So I'm just going to say bye. And I'll see you in the next one.